everyone. This is David Owen with Changescape Web. Welcome to this episode of the Real Producers Partners podcast. Today, I'm joined by Timra Couto, General Manager and partner with Mighty Dog Roofing of Greater New Orleans. As partner, Timra led the company startup and has expanded their services beyond roofing to include gutters, siding, and windows. Timra was born in Florence, Alabama. She grew up in Las Vegas and then decided to come back east a little bit after high school. So she moved to Denver. Then she came back to North Alabama to raise her children. Her grandfather was from New Orleans, and she found herself visiting him more and more, liked the people, liked the food, liked the whole environment around there. So she moved to New Orleans permanently in 2010. So today we'll learn more about her company and find out what makes them unique in the New Orleans marketplace. So welcome, Timra, and thanks for being the guest today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So could you give us a little background beyond what I spoke about you and your company, how you arrived at the roofing business?
Well, when I moved here to New Orleans, I worked with Leonard Cabrera, which is my business partner now, and all of our business was in the government world.
Okay.
I was at small business ventures and met some people from Kiewit Constructors, and started working with them. And I was a subcontracted PM for them on the permanent canal closures, which are the three main pump stations here on Lake Pontchartrain. Then I met some gentlemen from Conti and Cajun, and I was a subcontracted PM for them on the flood walls in the east and the east levee protection projects. And we just kind of fell into civil construction. Then we decided, Lenny's flipped a few houses. You call them flips, they're not really flips. They were his own homes that were built in the 1800s that are insane. We like to do it. So we decided I would get my contractor's license, and we wanted to start something that wasn't from the ground up. So Mighty Dog is a franchise, and we wanted something that had a brand and already had some national partners.
Sure.
So we could get decent pricing, and a lot of that is why we chose a franchise.
Okay.
And we decided to get into home improvement. So we do pretty much anything on the exterior of your home.
Okay. So if I just need a gutter check, will you guys do that?
We basically have a minimum because I have to send a crew out. I can't put anybody on a roof alone.
Okay.
So if it's someone that just wants a gutter checked, then we have some basically handyman type people that we refer them to. If they have gutter sections that are broken, that obviously need work, then we're going.
Okay.
But sometimes it's just, I just want somebody to look at my gutters.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little difficult to send a crew out to do.
Sure.
Our biggest thing we do here right now is our code in Louisiana changed to the IRC 2021 code, January the 1st of this year. And people are still not building the code. They're not putting roofs on the code. We can't get the major insurance companies to come write policies here because of the code was outdated. They're trying to bring Fortified in here. Fortified can be done anywhere. I was very familiar with Fortified because it started in Alabama and it is still based in Alabama. Problem with Fortified here in South Louisiana is you can't even get a certification on a dry stacked foundation for a roof. Okay, a dry stacked foundation are the pillars that you see in all these old homes and old buildings. It's probably 40% of Orleans Parish. So we're never going to get a database big enough to have X number of roofs put onto this code within the last 5 years with Fortified for insurance companies to say, hey, that's a good risk for us to come back and write policies there. So I'm on the board with the HBA. And there is a task force that was put in place that went and took it all the way to Washington to get us a permitting system that does the same thing as Fortified and creates a certificate. Everything's done through the geotag apps. It's a whisper difference between IRC 2021 and Fortified. Literally.
Probably the name is only difference. Or
The
very close
only
to
real
that.
difference is you don't have to use a full head ring shank nail in the decking.
Okay.
You don't have to use the zigzag 4-inch off center on the drip edge.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
Huh.
Okay. All of our installers do it anyway, because I want them to be in the habit of doing it, period.
Okay.
With certain materials, even with code, they have to have certain resistance qualifications and certifications for these materials you can use here because of our environment. So now there are parishes here that have a permitting system that produce the same certificate and database. Orleans is still the only one that doesn't have a permitting system because they don't have the people to do it. So Orleans is our challenge here. So I do a lot of presentations for insurance companies,
Mhm.
for real estate companies, for like Nomar, all of the big ones to help educate people that deal with homeowners. This year, they're going to have me at the Home and Garden Show do the presentation instead of the insurance commissioner, which I did sit on a panel with the insurance commissioners and with some insurance agencies, because real estate agents reach more homeowners than anybody.
Okay.
You get a wind mitigation certificate for these people as soon as you're having the home inspected. That home inspector can give you a wind mitigation certificate. Your insurance company will give you a discount for that. Anything we can do to help homes sell, because the market's bad right now, and help people get their insurance down and get insurance companies to come back and write policies here. So we do a lot of education right now.
I bet you didn't know you were going to be a teacher.
No, no, but it's beneficial. Prime example, yesterday, I'm on the phone with a desk adjuster. She called me and she said, your estimate's about $3,000 more than mine in Xactimate. I said, well, if you'll send it to me, we'll go through it. She had no idea the code had changed. I gave her a link to open it. She called me right back and said, this is too much. Just help me get to your number. Wouldn't even read it.
Wow.
And I'm like, you guys have got to learn. It's been almost a year and, you know, everybody's got to catch up. Then they have to make the chucking trucks be accountable because they're not doing anything to code and then they can't find them. So we've had people calling that have gotten roofs put on since January the 1st. Insurance companies won't write their policies because their roof isn't to code. So now they've got a new roof and they can't get their insurance renewed.
Wow.
Now they can't find these people that put their roofs on. It's a thing here. Right now, it is the topic of everything.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time. I have one that is to the general public that is in the Jefferson Parish Library next week. So they're starting to bring public into these things. But people have to know, they have to learn, and they have to know what to look for, and they have to know, you know, it's crazy.
It is. Well, you know, knowledge is a good thing, especially when you're dealing with something as expensive as a roof. And you don't want the new roof on there not to have insurance, and then you get some sort of storm or catastrophe that just, you know,
Well, here's the
almost
deal.
ruins
With the new code and with Fortified, you have to actually seal the deck.
you. Okay.
Okay. Chances are, if it's not a 4, a big 4 or a 5, you might lose some shingles, but your house is still going to be dry.
Yeah.
You won't have power, but the inside of your house will still most likely be dry.
Well, that's good.
That is huge because now you're not ripping out sheetrock, you're not ripping out floors, you're not ripping out. You can come back to your home more than likely. If you're not in an area that something happened and it flooded, chances are you could come back to your home.
It's amazing to me that the insurance companies are kind of bringing up the rear on this and don't have the education they need to do what they're doing.
Yes. What's amazing is the underwriters are aware of it and they're refusing to write policies, but the adjusters have no clue.
In many cases, are the adjusters captive of the company, or are they independent?
It depends on the company. It does. But we spent a lot, even my salespeople and my production manager, we don't run appointments that are less than 2 hours because it takes that long to have these conversations with people.
Sure.
If they've got multiple estimates and one's, $1,000 cheaper than ours. All right, let's go through it line by line. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to show you the code. We have a basic 3-pager for them to be able to see this actually code and see, hey, this is what by law they have to put on your roof. And if you choose to do this cheaper, they won't renew your insurance. And then you're going to have to rip it off and do it anyway. So it's a lot. It's hopefully in the next year will get better. But yeah, this year's been interesting.
Yeah, I'll bet. Anytime there's a change in the market, there's disruption.
Yeah.
And you're in the midst of the disruption right now.
Yep.
So, and the only way to get through
to enforce it more. And
Right.
there's just really not, other than somebody driving by and just seeing them.
So I see the fortified roof is trademarked.
Yes.
And so what does that specifically mean?
So fortified, there are 3 levels of fortified. And if you have to go through testing to be a fortified installer.
Okay.
I've gone through all the testing on this. So fortified gold is only on a new build. You cannot retrofit a house to be a fortified gold. It is everything from straps from the foundation to the framing and the walls.
Okay.
To the roof. Okay. And it's for fortified gold. You can retrofit a silver, which is going to be your windows, your doors, and your roof.
Okay.
Then the next level, and the most important thing is the roof. A fortified roof is to this specific code, but that's when we ran into the dry stack foundation situation here.
Okay.
But the roof, like Grand Isle, when Ida hit Grand Isle down here and wiped Grand Isle away, there were 6 small fortified homes built by one man. The only thing that happened to those homes is the central units blew off their foundation.
Wow.
That is it.
That's amazing.
It is. And Florida took on fortified after Ida. Fortified was created in Alabama after Katrina. All the testing and everything is done there. So you have certain materials, a certain process, even a nail pattern. You have to show all of these geotagged app photos, even with tape measures down. It has to be a certain, yes. And then there's a zigzag pattern at certain things, or certain types of nails. When we do fortified, we ice and water the entire roof. We don't tape the seams. We ice and water the entire roof.
Okay.
You have to replace the decking if it's slat decking, and a lot of houses built like before the 70s have slat roof decking and not the 4x8 sheets.
Okay.
That's the case. You've got to redeck the house, or you can use a closed cell foam and only do in the seams, in between the boards.
Because it kind of glues them all together.
It does seal them off, but you never want to spray the entire inside of your roof, because then it doesn't breathe. When it doesn't breathe, you're cooking your shingles, your void, your warranty, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a very tricky situation because you've still got to keep the ventilation in there. But there are options, and we have found options that are through fortified. Everything with the permitting or fortified goes through a geotag app. There is a checklist of all these photographs that have to be by every step, and you can't miss one of them.
Okay.
Then it's turned in. Fortified uses a third-party evaluator. That person's going to be the one that collects all the photographs and all the documentation, and they go to Fortified. With the permitting, it's a parish inspector that does that. Same process, it's just a parish inspector as opposed to being a third-party evaluator.
Okay.
But they produce the same thing.
Okay.
So putting on a roof has become a whole lot more.
There's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. Now,
And you
keep in
can't
mind
just
here,
accept.
we have slate roofs that are 100 years old. We have homes with hand-bent copper gutters.
Wow.
You're talking about it's a very different environment in a lot of the homes. So retrofitting things have kind of become something we've just had to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And it kills me that, Fortified's like, no, there's no way that they can have that Fortified roof certificate with a dry stack. I said, that house has been there for 200 years. It moves because it needs to move. It needs to shift. The ground moves under us.
Right.
You can feel it at times. And it's like it moves because it needs to have that little give, like an earthquake. It needs that little give. But they will not budge. Will not budge on it.
That's amazing. So is that geologists or is that engineers that won't budge?
Well, here's the thing. The IBC owns Fortified,
Okay.
which is the insurance companies.
Ah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. It can be a conflict of interest. To some extent, I think it could be because if you mandate Fortified in a state, now there is no other roof can go on. It's got to be to Fortified standards.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can change those standards as they want to.
Sure.
Now, Fortified is a good program. It's going to cost more, but it works. The IRC 2021 code is literally almost the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it works. So to mandate something that cannot be retrofitted for everyone is a problem.
Yeah. Well, that just doesn't make sense. It's not the reality.
No. So it is probably, I don't see Fortified actually pushing through here. There are some lobbyists that are still working really, really hard trying. But they will have to come up with alternatives for the people because there's just too many of them. Just way too many people, and you can't exclude that many people. And they've got to be able to get insurance, and they've got to have their homes protected, and all the above.
Yeah, because
the people that buy these homes that are 200 years old, one, they are not cheap, and they are not cheap to keep up. And the people that are doing it, and they're creating and preserving this heritage, don't make things harder on them. Yeah. So
yeah, that's a shame that there's regulation that just makes doing simple stuff harder and more expensive.
Yeah.
And I would think that the Fortified approach would be longer over time. I mean, longer, less expensive over time. Might be more in the front end, but
Fortified codes are literally within $1,000 of each other. And a lot of that is paying that evaluator and some of that stuff. Okay. So there's really not that big of a difference in the cost.
Okay.
$1,500, something like that.
Yeah. That's closer than I would have thought it would be.
Yes. Now, like I said, a Fortified home is another story.
Okay.
It will cost you a little more, but if I built a new build here, I would build a Fortified home.
Okay.
100%. I would build a Fortified.
Yep. Yeah.
You just can't retrofit one. Now you can
one that's already standing, you can't make it a Fortified home because there's probably, I would think, some bracing on the inside, some support.
Oh, it's strapping from the foundation to the framing to it's a big deal. Now, Fortified silver, even what people tend to forget, we completely forgot about wind mitigation certificates. you can still get a discount from any insurance company with a wind mitigation certificate. That's your windows, your doors, and your roof.
Yeah.
Okay. You can also get insurance if you have storm shutters. You can get a discount. Okay. Well,
Okay.
that protects your windows. So that part's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we forgot all the things that have always been there that are still in place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's, storm shutters are, people think just for looks, it's just the look of the place. No, it's not. It's a necessity. It's why Florida has them. The coast in South Carolina and North Carolina have them. Florida, it's part of life. But if people would just kind of stop and rethink things that have worked for years.
Yeah.
Changing the code to the 2021 IRC code was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more strenuous than the 2018. It should have been done a long time ago.
Yeah.
But again, people don't like change.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's true.
I also don't like not having insurance.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I noticed in some of the information that was shared with me that you guys offer annual inspections.
Mhm.
And tell me a little bit about those.
It's called a customer vault. So there's an email that goes out a year after your install date. Now, this is
Okay.
on a new roof. Okay. We're going to send you an email. And if you want us to come out, you reply to it. We will send one of them out. They will use the Geotag app. We'll take all the photographs needed. They'll inspect your roof. We have documentation for your insurance company now that if there's a storm, they can't say this is pre-existing. And we'll do that every year. So they have documentation to go to bat against an insurance company that says, hey, this was here already. It wasn't, and we can show you it's not.
Okay.
So anything that we can do to help a homeowner, it's also helpful if they sell their home, or it's a tool for them to try and sell their home at this point, because now they've got documentation to prove to this homeowner this has all really been done.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't just look at a roof. We have people call all the time. I need my roof inspected for insurance to prove it's the code. Well, the only way I can tell if I didn't put it on is to rip it off. Okay.
Right.
Don't think that's what you want me to do. But that is our options. So documentation, even for somebody like that, if you don't know, there's just a lot of things, little things that we're doing extra. Even the roofs that don't have permitting systems, we still have all the photographs, all the documentations. We have everything. There will be a permitting system, and hopefully we can go back and get them a certificate because we have everything that they're going to need.
Okay.
And that, even though a customer needs a roof, they got to do it anyway. It's nice to know that we're going to try to help them.
So the annual inspection isn't for you to sell more business necessarily. It's to protect the homeowner.
It's to protect the homeowner, and it's to stay ahead of damage.
Yeah.
Now,
So
that
you
will in turn give us business, because
Yeah.
people will refer us to people. They'll also, if they have a problem with their gutters or their siding or anything, they're like, you know what, Mighty Dog's been great, call them. So it in turn will give us business.
Right, but
that
it's not
particular-
designed specifically for that.
No.
But it's like taking your car in for an inspection or getting an oil change. You're just trying to mitigate the ultimate and at least plan for it so you know what's happening.
Well, and here in Louisiana and the environment we're in, insurance is going to depreciate your roof 100% in 10 years.
Yeah.
That's the max they're going to give you.
Yeah.
Because of the environment that we live in. And like I said, anything we can do to help them along the way, they will come back to us. If something needs to be done, they're coming to us.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 realtors today call and say, hey, I got people to put the house on the market. Do you have an inspector that can help me with these wind mitigation certificates? Can you come out here? They need a quote on this roof. They've got to replace the roof. And it's because they've gone to presentations that I've done, and they're like, you actually know what you're talking about and you guys are doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
So many are not. Now you're still going to have the people that want the cheapest roof they can get.
Yeah.
And those are just not our customers.
Yeah.
They're just not our customer base.
No.
And we'll be happy to come out, but we're telling them we're not going to be the cheapest ones. We're competitive to say the least, but we're not going to be the cheapest.
Yeah.
Because we're
Well,
not.
you don't want to work with the cheapest.
No.
You do not want to do that.
No. And we're not cutting corners, and we're not doing the things that at some point they're going to start catching people and they're going to start taking their license, and all the repercussions are going to happen because the public can only take so much.
Right. Right.
You know, flood insurance on the West Bank went up 400% this year.
Wow. Oh my word.
Okay. So you've got, because that particular area is outside of the levee system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are they supposed to do?
Right.
Like, well, you can get a grant and raise your house.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll get grants, most of them are used up, but it's, if we don't all help this, people will have to leave Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah.
Because they won't be able to afford to live here.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of not the goal. The goal is for us to be able to do as much as we possibly can and, make some money while we're at it. But at the same time, we're trying to help this place that we all love. My business partner, Lenny, was born and raised here. And, it's 100% home to him.
Okay.
I came here in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids and grandkids spend a lot of time here from North Alabama. One of my granddaughters is actually probably going to Tulane next year. She's a basketball player. And,
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So, and they wanted to see my 15-year-old grandson because he's 6'6".
Yeah.
And so I may have two of my grandbabies down here too.
Wow, that'd be great.
Yeah.
You have some height in your family.
Yeah, I'm 5 foot without my shoes. So
Yeah. Well,
I'm glad they got it.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
that's right.
But yeah, they all love it. And it's one of the places, it is funny because it's one of those places you either love it or you hate it. There's not a happy medium for people with this place. But if you like music, food, architecture, history, just different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
you got to spend a little time here.
Yeah, I understand. I've driven through New Orleans, heading to Texas from Georgia. So just passed by.
You didn't even get in the city, did you?
No, I just waved at it as I went by.
Now you gotta, and October is the time to come. October is the prettiest weather here. Yeah.
Yeah.
October is also the busiest tourist season. So.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to come. I'd love to visit and enjoy some of the food, some of the music, some of the nightlife, all the things I've heard about in all my years. I would think that would be a great time.
It is. And like I said, and people do need to do the cheesy things like take the buggy rides with the tour guides through the cemeteries and through the city itself. And let them tell you what you're looking at and let them tell you some of the history of it. And, just really, sadly, you can't go in the cemeteries by yourself anymore. You have to have a guide because people spray paint the tombs and things that are just, so now you have to have a guide take you into them. But, you should.
Yeah.
To
get the full effect, because you need to, if you haven't been there, you want to know what this means. Why is this the way it is? And that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
It's a big city and there's violence in any big city. And if you're out at 2:00 in the morning, you're going to find something you probably don't want to find. But that's in St. Louis too.
Yeah, exactly. And I grew up in Kansas.
Yep.
You can find trouble anywhere you want.
Exactly. So that's what we tell people. It's like, if you go looking for it, you're going to find it.
That's right.
Okay? It's just the way it is. And other than that, like I said, I've lived in a lot of cities, and I'm not afraid to go anywhere here.
Well, good. Well, so how would people get in touch with you or in touch with the company if they need some assistance?
We have commercials on television that have our
Okay.
main number on them. Our main number is 504-383-7244.
Okay.
And we have an admin person sitting at that desk all day. They can contact me directly,
Okay.
which is tcoto@mightydogroofing.com,
Okay.
or they can call and ask for me, either one. And they do quite often because they'll need help with their insurance. They'll need help with reverse mortgages. We kind of do all kinds of things. ProFund is who we use for financing, which SRS actually owns, which is our main supplier. So we can pay their materials through it. They can get additional funds for work that needs to be done on the interior that we're not going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like a construction loan kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that we try to do to help homeowners, even if it's not something that we're going to actually be doing the work.
Well, but you're involved in it. And so you add value to what you do by helping them out.
They're going to let us do our work because we're
Yeah.
helping them do everything else.
Sure. Sure.
And reverse mortgages, I think, are the worst thing to deal with ever.
Yeah.
They're tough. It's sad. Honestly, I think people have a very different idea of what they are when you see them on television and stuff.
Yeah.
And it sounds great, but the experience I've had with some of these people has not been great.
Well, and you don't really know till you're in the middle of it.
And some of them don't have options.
Right.
They need the money to live on.
Right.
I mean, they don't have options.
Right.
But yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So one other thing I was thinking about is I understand you're a drone pilot.
Yes.
What did that take?
It took tests.
Yep.
I can read aeronautical maps now.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of things. It wasn't as hard as it seems. Biggest thing is knowing your airspace,
Mm-hmm.
making sure you're approved in an airspace, knowing the environment. If it's windy, no. One thing people don't know about drones, during this excessive heat that we had, you went out first thing in the morning and you didn't stay up more than 15 minutes because they will overheat quickly.
Yeah.
Battery will pop out and they'll fall to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's those batteries get hot and they get hot fast. So Javon uses it most of the time because he's the one that's the biggest thing they do for us is when you're on a 3-story house that's already got 12 to 15 foot ceilings on all 3 stories.
Oh, yeah.
And it's at a 812 pitch.
Yeah.
You don't want to get up there.
No.
And most likely it's old slate. So it's slick.
Yep.
And the drone comes in real handy right then.
Yeah. I can imagine that would.
It does.
So, and the drone technology has moved so far.
Yes.
It used to be it wouldn't do anything except the joystick.
Yep.
And now they almost fly themselves.
Yeah, there is it's called a lawnmower pattern.
Okay.
That is a software that we have that it will literally take it to the certain height. It will avoid trees.
Okay.
It will actually avoid them, but it runs a lawnmower pattern.
Okay.
You can actually put little pins in spots that you want it to drop down and take close-up images on.
Okay.
Another thing it does is you can take really, really good footage for some of these $5 and $6 million homes
Mm-hmm.
that people in New York and California are buying. So those realtors can get some really good footage of the grounds, the surrounding area, and it helps them sell those properties outside of someone deciding they want to come here.
Yeah. So
When
they
you
can view what they want to see before they make the trip.
Decide they want to make the trip.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can see all the pictures on the inside, you can see all that stuff, but to see the neighborhoods, to see where you are, and it definitely can come in handy.
I'll bet. So is there anything else we ought to chat about?
That's about all that I can think of right now. Like I said, we talk about insurance more than we talk about anything right now.
Yeah.
But
well, that's at top of mind, right?
It is
It's
everywhere.
on everybody's mind.
It is. And people don't think too, because insurance companies, they just think about hurricanes.
Right.
Then you got fires, tornadoes.
Mhm.
Tornadoes can do every bit as much damage as a hurricane.
Yeah.
In a whole lot shorter amount of time.
Well, yeah, and they're very concentrated too.
Yes. So you have tornadoes, then you have, the fires have become worse and worse all the time. And then occasionally we have earthquakes. So everywhere you go, there is some chance of natural disaster.
Sure.
And everything that we can do anywhere to start building smarter, we should, period.
Yeah.
There was that one house in Maui that didn't have anything wrong with it.
Right.
It had a metal roof. It had a stone exterior. And they had removed all the trees around it. And then it had rock landscaping around it. Everything burnt around it. And the house is still standing like nothing happened.
Nothing to burn.
Nothing to burn. Because it couldn't.
So that brings up another point. Do you guys do metal roofs?
We do.
Okay.
Metal, we do slate, we do composite slate, we do the stone coated metal, we do shingles, we do flat roofs, we do TPO. Pretty much anything you need done.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. It's just making sure that you get the right crews out there.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
not all crews can do all of them.
Well, and you don't necessarily want a singular crew to try and expand their
Nope.
skill. You want them to do what they do well, and then
Mhm.
that's it.
Well, I even found a instruction class to teach the new code and fortified to my installers in Spanish
Mhm.
because they needed to be able to ask questions.
Yeah.
All of them needed to, not just the main guys that speak English really well. They all needed to be able to ask questions and understand the process.
Right.
We do gutters, we do siding, we do hardy board, we do soffit and fascia, we do windows and doors and pretty much anything on the exterior.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Okay.
So thank you much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you.
Well, I thank you for letting me come.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, and have a great afternoon.
You too. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bye.